Now, if you're like me, you've probably used an LLM before, or you're using one right now. And if you're really like me, you're probably using some type of LLM all the time, whether it's to fix bugs, add features, architect completely new apps from the ground up, generate images, or even help outline, draft, write, and schedule this very video you are watching right now. And while LLMs can seem truly magical, they do have an Achilles heel. Even with all that power and ingenuity, LLMs can feel powerless when you want to interact with a third party system or tool. Because LLMs can't access external data like your databases by default. They begin to feel limiting fast, even though they can work wonders with the context you hand them. Fortunately, there is an elegant solution to solve just this kind of problem: MCP. MCP stands for Model Context Protocol, and it's a standard for connecting things to the LLM and vice versa. With MCP-enabled servers and clients, the LLM you're using will no longer be confused when you ask it to access external resources. It will just know what to do and things will just work. And so in today's video, we're going to discuss what MCP is, how it works, how you configure your apps to leverage it, and then we'll roll up our sleeves and put all of these ideas into practice with some useful coding sessions. Now, a good way to understand the value of MCP is to think about something as ubiquitous as a USB-C port. We all have them, and they allow our peripherals, whether keyboards, trackpads, and mice, to effortlessly connect to our computers and be used without us needing to do anything. Everything just works, and there's also the added benefit of charging our devices. After all, when I connect my iPhone to my laptop to transfer data or check some stats, I don't need to spend 30 minutes configuring the iPhone by telling my computer what kind of device I have and how it works. It just detects it as an iPhone and does what it needs to do. The same happens when I connect an external keyboard or this external trackpad I'm using. I immediately get notified that something has connected and it starts working right away. That's exactly what MCP is. It's a USB-C port for your LLM. If both your LLM and your app support MCP, you can effortlessly connect them and have the LLM manage the heavy lifting on your behalf. This allows you to leverage the power of LLMs when building just about anything, from writing simple scripts to building complex software systems without breaking a sweat. Now, usually when people think about MCPs, they picture an LLM accessing a third-party app, like what we have discussed so far. In this setup, the LLM acts as the client, while the app or tool it's accessing acts as the server. A common example is using an LLM agent such as Codex, Cursor, or Claude Code to interact with your Supabase backend. In this case, the remote tool, Supabase, exposes an MCP server which your MCP client, the LLM, connects to. Once connected, the client can query the available tools and start executing them. All of this happens automatically, much like how a USB-C device connects and becomes instantly usable. There's also the reverse setup, where the tool you're using acts as the client and the remote LLM acts as the server. This setup can be useful whenever you want your tool to access an LLM. For example, to process natural language queries or generate responses within your app. Here, you can ask the LLM to generate something for you, be it text, images, or even video, with just a simple prompt or the extra context your app can provide. The main distinction lies in where the work begins. Does it start with you working inside the LLM and needing to access third-party resources, or does it start within a tool or app or a combination of both that needs to call the LLM to help you reason about something or generate new content? And so now what I want to do is I want to show you how these concepts work in practice. And in the first half of this hands-on demonstration, I want to show you a situation where we're going to be using LLM as an MCP client to connect to an MCP server to get some resources or to do various operations, okay? And so what we're going to be doing is we're going to be connecting to my Supabase database. So LLM is going to be the client, and this Supabase that I have here all configured with tables is going to be the server. Okay. Now, Supabase by itself is not enough. We need to expose this MCP interface. Okay. We have it on the client side, and I'm going to be showing you how that works in just a minute. But on the server side, we don't have it just yet. Unfortunately, with Supabase, it's fairly easy. All you need to do is Google for Supabase MCP. You're going to end up on a page that looks something like this. This is this model context protocol for MCP, and it works seamlessly with your Supabase instances. Okay. And so here, I am logged into my Supabase account. I have one of my accounts here, one of my projects with all of these tables here. And if I Google for this, I'm going to end up on this page. And if you're already logged in, this page is going to reflect that. And so all I need to do is select my project. Here, I have the server URL all configured. Now, for the client here, you can select any client you want that's specific to your particular application. But in our case here, we're going to be just testing it using OpenAI's new agent builder feature. And I'm also going to be showing you how you can use it for something like Codex, or some kind of a CLI agent builder as well, okay? So we're gonna leave this on cursor here because it doesn't really matter here. And so what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and copy this right here. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and Google for agent builder, OpenAI API. And this is a good way to test whether your tool is properly configured with MCP as a server, okay? Because this supports clients. Okay, so we're gonna click on Open Agent Builder, okay? And I'm logged in into my account. Here I have everything open here. And we're gonna create a brand new workflow here, okay? So we have the start, and we have my agent. Now, if you want to see a deep dive tutorial on this amazing tool, click on that link right there, okay? And so we're going to click on this My Agent over here, and we're going to tell it what it's meant to do. And so what is this agent going to do? Well, this agent is going to go ahead and analyze, let's say, these tables here, right? So we have a bunch of tables, and they kind of group by projects. And so we have this table here that has conversion data, okay? And so I'm going to go back here and I'm going to say something like, you're an agent that does currency conversion. And before we actually configure this agent, you want to configure your tools, okay, namely your MCP server. So I'm going to click here. I'm going to click on MCP server over here, and I'm going to click here, okay, and here I'm going to paste my URL, okay, and I'm going to give it a name. I'm just going to say like MCP1. And we also need to configure it with an access token API key, because otherwise anybody will be able to connect to your Supabase instance and do whatever they want. Okay, so you're going to go back to your Supabase here. You're going to click on your account. You're going to go into your account preferences. You're going to go into access tokens. And as you can see, I have a bunch of tokens already. And I'm going to generate a new one. And so I'm just going to say this is MCP test. Okay, I'm going to generate a token. I'm going to go ahead and copy it, come back over here, and I'm going to go ahead and paste it here. Now I'm going to click on connect. And this is the moment of truth. This is where we see if we are able to connect to the server right here. And as you can see, it has a bunch of things that it can do. Okay, a bunch of things. Apply migration, execute SQL. Now next, you want to go into approval. And you want to select how you want to do this. Do you always want to require approval, never, or configured? I typically do never, unless it's like a really, really mission critical app. But for now, never is good. And we're going to say add. Okay. And once we do that, we have this tool configured. Now you're ready to configure, to set up your instructions here. So I'm going to click here and I'm going to say agent that does currency conversion by consulting MCP1. Okay. And it's going to figure everything out once you click on update. So we're going to click on update, and it's going to go ahead and generate a brand new prompt for us. Okay, you're an assistant agent in currency for every consult the MCP1 system to obtain the latest exchange rates and provide the user. And it does all of this. Look at this. Really nice. And this is fine for a very kind of generic use case. If you have something more custom, if you need some kind of custom, if you needed to output JSON, you may want to modify the output format and all that. But for now, this is good enough. We're going to click on preview, and we're going to go ahead and send a message and see how it works, see if it's able to connect to our MCP server. So I'm just going to say, convert 50 USD to euro. Okay. And what you're looking for here is you're looking to see if it's going to connect to your MCP server and not just, give you an answer, just by itself. And so as you can see, I can't browse internally. It's querying exchange rates. It's actually going through our MCP server, execute SQL. So it's going along the right path, and now it's calculating, and there we have it, data from MCP1. So as you can see, it did what it's supposed to do. Okay, it connected to the MCP server and was able to get the data. So at this point, you validated a couple of things. Most importantly, you validated that you have an MCP server that's live. Okay, so this MCP server right here, you can use it in your apps as well. And in fact, I have here a Codex window. I use Codex from OpenAI. And you can also configure MCP servers, right? Because it can also act as a client. And so if you, load it, right, and you type MCP, you can configure it. So as you can see, I have a Stripe here, a Stripe MCP server, and I have a Supabase MCP server, and it uses the same project, right? This is the exact same project. And I can also ask it the same thing, or I can say something like convert 100 USD to euro using the Supabase MCP server. Okay, and it's going to be doing the exact same thing, right? It's not just going to go ahead and just make up some numbers or connect to the web. You see how it's listing MCP servers. It's finding my Supabase. It's going to be connecting here. And if this is all fine, right? It's got the data, right? So here it selects, schema. It's executing SQL. It's finding the tables, etc., etc. Let's see if it's able to do it. Currency references, right? We have all the data, and it's able to kind of figure everything out, which is really, really cool. Okay, there it is. 100 USD converts to 92 euros using the latest data, right? So, and I have some sample data. And as you might have noticed, this is the exact same thing that the preview output, right? So when you do preview, I think it was exactly 92 euros, and it was the exact same date because it's using the exact same data, right? So this is the scenario where we have our LLMs acting as clients, right? They're acting as clients and they're connecting to some third-party tool, app, database, you name it, anything where it has access to tools that allow it to manipulate data. That's that logic piece. And then it has the data, right? So whether it's Supabase or Airtable or anything that has data, and it exposes the tools to work with that data, you can put an MCP server wrapping around it, and you can configure a client to do it, right? Because once you have that MCP server up and running, it doesn't matter how you're trying to access it, whether, this agent builder, whether Cursor, whether it's going to be Cursor, whether it's going to be Codex, Claude Code, or any other LLM that can act as an MCP client, it will be able to get the data that you want. And so if you're looking to get access to some third-party database or some third-party tool app as an MCP client to server connection, all you need to do is Google for one, right? So for instance, if let's say you're using Airtable, well, guess what? Airtable has an MCP server. You can just Google for it and you can configure it, and then you can access your Airtable data using your LLM, which makes things a lot easier, and it's a really nice kind of workflow to do that. Now, the next scenario I want to show you is the reverse. So instead of your LLM acting as a client and connecting to some third-party external app or tool that's acting as a server, we're now going to be using a tool that's going to be acting as a client that's going to be connecting to an LLM that's going to be acting as a server. Okay, so how exactly does this work? Well, it's actually very, very simple. Okay, so if you Google for something like building MCP servers for ChatGPT and API integrations, you can simply Google this phrase and you're going to end up on this page exactly. You can kind of learn more about it. And the idea here is that you can get LLM to act as a server, to do all kinds of logic, to do all kinds of interesting things. And your app is going to be connecting it in a client mode. So it's the exact reverse, okay? So let me show you how this is done. Now, in this example, what they propose is that we use, obviously, an OpenAI LLM here, ChatGPT, and we also attach to it a vector store. And so that way, we can connect to our LLM that's going to be acting as a server, but in addition to giving it queries and asking it a bunch of things, we can also ask it stuff about this specific vector store by feeding it data first, creating an embeddings, and then kind of querying about the data and having it respond to us, okay? And so the first thing we need to do here is configure our data source, okay? And for that, you can simply go to your OpenAI dashboard here. You want to go into storage, and you want to create a vector store. So I'm going to click on create. That's going to create a brand new vector store. And I'm just going to call it LLM MCP test. And this store right now is completely empty. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a file to it. And so here I uploaded a file about the Roman Empire, some generic PDF that I found on the web, and I'm going to go ahead and attach it. Okay. And so when I attach this file, it's going to go ahead and create an embeddings for this file. So that way it can index it quickly and get queries that are specific to the data that we have here. And so if you go into files, you're going to see this one file here. And obviously you can add more files. And so that way you can query the data that's just in these files by just querying the embeddings. Okay. And so the next thing that we need to do is we need to create an LLM that's going to act as an MCP server and will connect to this. And so if you go back here to OpenAI's documentation, you can scroll down. You can see now we need to create an MCP server. Now, when we are talking about MCP servers have tools that they expose to an MCP client. And in this case, we're going to have two tools. The search tool, and this search tool is going to be responsible for returning a list of relevant search results from your MCP server's data source, right? This is our embeddings, our vector storage, okay? And then we're also going to have the fetch tool. The fetch tool is used to retrieve the full contents of a search result document or item. Okay, so you can do a query based on the documents that you have. You can query your documents, or you can fetch a specific document, which allows you to test if everything is working fine. And it's also going to be useful for our users, right? Because users may want to query on specific data, or they may want to fetch an entire document and kind of, learn more about that specific document. And so now we need to create this MCP server. And obviously there's lots of ways of doing it. You can do it on your own. You can create this app. You can deploy it on Railway. You can deploy it on Vercel. You can deploy it anywhere that you want. But they give you a very, very simple way of doing it. And here they say, well, this is the full implementation of the server. Or you can create it on Replit, which makes it super easy to kind of deploy it and test it out. And so I'm going to scroll down. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this thing over here, this example MCP server on Replit. I'm going to click over here. That's going to go ahead and open up my Replit here. And you're going to have this template for an existing app. And I'm going to click on remix this app. Okay, so now I can name it whatever that I want. So I'm just going to say MCP server test. And I'm going to say remix this app, and it's going to essentially duplicate this app. It's kind of with Flutterflow and any other app builder. You have a template, and you're basically duplicating that template onto your own machine here. Okay, so it went ahead and it kind of created it. But before I can actually launch this app, I need to have it pointing to my OpenAI account, right? And we need to have it pointing to our vector store and our OpenAI account to do LLM stuff, okay? And so I'm going to click here, and I'm going to go into secrets, okay? And here I need to configure my vector store ID and my OpenAI API key. So I'm going to go back to my storage. I'm going to copy this vector store ID, go back here, and I'm going to go ahead and paste it here. And the same thing for the OpenAI key. I'm going to go back here, and I'm going to go into API keys. I'm going to create a new key, and I'm just going to say MCP server test. We're going to click here. I'm going to go ahead and copy it, come back over here and paste it here, okay? And so now that we added the secrets here, we are ready to test everything out. I'm going to start this right back. I'm going to go on the console, and I'm going to see what happens, okay? So everything is fine. No issues over here. And if you go into preview and you click on this chain icon here, right, you're going to get a URL. You want to copy that. And you want to open another window here, and you want to paste it, and you want to append SSE to it. Okay, when you do that, you're going to be getting a message such as this. And what this means is that your MCP server is running now. It's running, it's able to accept requests, handle requests, stuff like that. And so now it's time to test things out. And the way that we're going to be testing things out is we're going to be using an agent builder that's going to act as an LLM client that's going to be connecting to our LLM server, okay? And so what we're going to do is we're going to create a new workflow here. We have an agent here, and I'm going to go into tools. I'm going to go into MCP server over here. I'm going to say ser plus server, and I'm going to paste this over here. And in fact, what you want to do is you want to make sure you paste this with SSE. I'm going to paste that there. I'm going to say MCP1, and there's no authentication. I'm going to say connect, and let's see if it's able to connect. It says search and fetch. And for testing, I like to do never. I like to have it just do stuff without worrying about approving all these tool requests. And for description, I'm just going to say expert on Roman Empire, something like this, and we're going to say add, okay? And so now we can give it a prompt. So I'm going to click over here, and I'm going to say, what do I want this prompt to be about? Expert on Roman Empire. Okay, I'm going to say update. In fact, I also want to mention that to use MCP1. Use MCP1 to handle queries about Roman Empire. And this is, the agent is Roman Empire researcher. Okay, there we have it. We're going to click on preview. And the first thing that we can query is, when did the Roman Empire collapse? A very, very common question. When did the Roman Empire collapse? Okay, and let's see if it's using our MCP server to get the data. And if it does, it's going to be using the LLM and everything. So there it is, using MCP1. I need to make sure I utilize the MCP1 tool, and it's going to figure out that there are two tools that it's exposing, the query and the fetch tool. It needs to be using the query tool. Let's see if it's able to figure it out. And in fact, now you can go back to your replit here, right here, and you can go into the console, and you're going to be seeing stuff happening here. Look at this. Fetching content from vector store, all of this. And you can go back here. I see I need to provide the nuanced answer. There we have it. Okay. Okay, so now you can click on reasoning, and you can kind of see what happened, how it reasoned there using MCP1 for Roman Empire queries, stuff like that. Look at this. So, and if you go back here, right here, you can see that everything looks good. There's no errors, stuff like that. This is our console panel. Everything is fine, okay? And so now let's close that, and let's try something else. So now what I want to do is I want to query for a document. I don't want to get data. I want to see if it's able to find a document, which is one of its features that it exposes to LLM clients. Find me a document about the Roman Empire, and let's see if it's able to do it. And now it should know to be using the fetch. Okay, search the vector store for documents, and let's see if it's able to find the document. And we can go back here, and you can see you should be having some data showing up over here called tool request, overview, all of these things here. Okay, the user is looking about a document. I have the Roman Empire Roots of Imperialism, right? This is the document that I uploaded. And as you can see now, it's not querying stuff. It's actually finding the document. That is the exact document that I uploaded. There's only one document, and it's able to get it, right? So there it is, document found, etc., etc. Now, if I try something like something else, find me a document about, I don't know, the presidency of Lyndon, of LBJ, or something like that. It should not find it, right? Because we don't have a document about that. So let's see what happens. Now here, it actually went ahead and still found documents, but these are not documents that are in that MCP server, right? And so if we want this agent to tell us, hey, we didn't find any documents, we need to alter the prompt. We need to make sure that there's a gate, that if it doesn't find something, it tells the user, because otherwise it's going to go ahead and find stuff on its own. But unlike the previous example, you see the address to address your request using the MCP1, here it doesn't say anything about the MCP1, right? Because we don't have that document in the MCP1, okay? And so it figured that out, but we can tailor the way it works, the way it responds by giving it a more targeted prompt, okay? And so in this example, we are accessing an LLM server, right? This is basically acting as a client, okay? And this client does not need to be like this. It could be any client. It could be, an app that you build. It could be pretty much anything, as long as it supports MCP as a client. And we already have a server that we've built on Replit here that's essentially listening for requests, okay? And so this is the reverse of the situation where we are using an LLM as a client that's accessing Supabase or accessing Airtable using an MCP server wrapper, okay? Now, if you guys want to gain more resources, more information, if you have additional questions and you want to kind of see the workflows, the stuff that I used, and you want to implement this, play around with this as well, check out our amazing Patreon community. I'm going to be making available all of these resources that you can kind of play around and implement. And also you can ask questions, offer suggestions, let me know what I should be working on next, as well as gain access to my very, very comprehensive no-code app library. And also it's an excellent way to support this channel and support my work. And so if you enjoyed this video, go ahead and check out our amazing Patreon community to gain access to more amazing resources.